Khalil Rountree Jr. has bounced back from his title fight loss last October to Alex Poatan Pereira by defeating the former champion Jamahal Hill, and he did it via a dominant, convincing decision victory in Baku, Azerbaijan. He has now won 6 of his last 7 fights, with that lone loss to Pereira happening last October, but let us not forget that in that fight, he had a ton of success in the opening 2 rounds, even having a knockdown. And 4 of the 6 wins during this momentum stretch for Khalil have been by way of knockout, and it came close to 5 in this one against Jamahal because he had numerous knockdowns. I believe 3. They only officially put it down as 1, but there were definitely 2 official, and 1 that was a close third in round number 4. And alongside with those brutal left hands and rights in the 4th round that he landed, he had some nasty leg kicks that tore up Jamahal's lead leg. This was just a very methodical performance from Khalil from minute 1 to minute 25, truly never putting himself in any danger. He was defensively sound, he was landing the big shots when needed, eluding when needed, and he just implemented such a good strategic game plan in order to beat Jamahal Hill, who is also known for his striking, more so the boxing, whereas Khalil holds the Muay Thai background, and it showed here in this one with those kicks. And this win came at a very big point, obviously, in the career of Khalil Rountree to bounce back from his first ever title fight loss, but also just in the general sense of the light heavyweight division, because we still really don't know what's next for the title. We saw back in March, Magomed Ankalaev dethrone Alex Pereira after 3 successful title defenses, one of them being against Khalil Rountree. Ankalaev now on an insane unbeaten streak in his own right and is the new champion, and it seemed all but certain in the aftermath that we would see a rematch between him and Poatan, but here we are sitting at the end of June, nearly heading into the halfway mark of 2025 with no true indication or route in which they are moving with the title. That being said, I do believe we will ultimately see the rematch between Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev, but I will say that Pereira could have some interest in what is going on at heavyweight right now, being that John Jones has officially retired. Tom Aspinall is the new undisputed heavyweight champion without a true, clear number 1 contender, although many people think it's going to be Ciryl Gane. Don't be shocked if Alex Pereira somehow gets in there with Tom Aspinall for the heavyweight title on the line.
Like I say, I've got a lot of respect for Alex Pereira and what he's done in the sport, and especially in a short amount of time. If we're going to make it happen, it's going to be for the undisputed title. So,
and if that's the case, then maybe it is Khalil Rountree who can face Magomed Ankalaev, a fight that has never happened before. And let us not also forget about Carlos Ulberg, who I believe is on a 7 or 8 fight win streak at the moment, with his biggest coming against Jan Blachowicz earlier this year. Yes, it wasn't a finish like we had seen him do prior during the win streak, but a decision win over Jan Blachowicz, a former champion, is still a big deal. And of course, another former champion in Jiri Prochazka still has his name in the hat after bouncing back at UFC 311 after beating Jamahal Hill via knockout in the 3rd round of their back and forth banger. So let's lay out 2 circumstances for the light heavyweight division, and you let me know down below which one you think you would agree with most. Let's assume that we get the rematch between Magomed Ankalaev and Alex Pereira a little later on this year, more than likely in October. Then let's allow Carlos Ulberg to get the winner of that fight. Even though his most recent performance wasn't the greatest ever, you can't deny the win streak that he's on, the biggest in the entire 205-pound weight class outside of Magomed. Then let's pair up Jiri Prochazka getting ready to graduate with his degree in I don't even know, war samurai history. It's something crazy. So once he's graduated and back ready to fight, let's pair him off with the former title challenger in Khalil Rountree after his big win in Baku over Jamahal Hill. The winner of that will be next in line. There we go. We kind of have everything laid out for the rest of 2025 and into probably the first half of 2026 as well. But for the other circumstance, let's assume something crazy is going to happen, and that's Alex Pereira moving to heavyweight to take on Tom Aspinall for the heavyweight championship. Well, then let's just slide Carlos Ulberg immediately into a title fight with Magomed Ankalaev. Then we still can do Jiri Prochazka versus Khalil Rountree. Winner of that gets the winner of Ankalaev versus Ulberg. So no matter the circumstance, let's see Jiri Prochazka versus Khalil Rountree next. But let me know if you agree down below. And now that we are done with the main event discussion in Baku, let's jump into the rest of the card, and it starts in the co-main event with a very fun fight in the lightweight division, as many of us anticipated. Rafael Fiziev is back on track. He ends his 3-fight losing skid, and he did it in a very, very good performance against the dangerous, long-rangey Igancio Bahamondes. Rafael Fiziev versus Igancio Bahamondes was the perfect combination combination of chaos and technical fighting. We would see Fiziev implement more grappling and wrestling than we had ever seen him do before. As a matter of fact, landing, I believe, 3 takedowns, the most that he had landed throughout his UFC career thus far. He found the right opportunities to implement that style of his game plan, went in for perfect takedowns in all of the 3 opportunities that he saw them, landed pretty significant ground and pound shots, but then was able to elude the submission threat that Igancio presents from his back. Just ask Jalen Turner about that. And on the feet, although Rafael Fiziev was much shorter, I believe 7 inches as a matter of fact, with 4-inch reach disadvantage as well, he still was able to get into the pocket and find the range, land the more impactful shots against Igancio, and bounce out before he would get countered too badly. And he did it in front of his home country of Azerbaijan. He showed out for the home crowd, and again, for his career's sake, bounced back after a 3-fight skid, albeit 2 of them were to the same man in Justin Gaethje, with the last one in March coming on very short notice, and the loss in between was against Mateusz Gamrot in a fight where Fiziev blew out his knee. He adds Ignacio Bahamondes to a pretty impressive resume now that also includes Rafael dos Anjos, a former champion, Brad Riddell, Bobby Green, and Renato Moicano. And he is still just 32 years old, right in his prime, and we can't forget, in the aftermath of his UFC 313 fight to Justin Gaethje on the Ariel Helwani show stated,
"It's possible that your next fight is going to be at featherweight."
Yes, it's possible. It's possible.
You think strong possibility?
I think yes.
And that's something that even in the winning aftermath of this fight in Baku, I'm still pretty intrigued in, but maybe not just yet. I still think Rafael Fiziev has plenty to offer in this lightweight division that is at a very interesting time, with the old guard about to be on their way out, and the new guard, like him, even though he's been around for a while now, on their way up. Could you imagine a fight between Dan Hooker and Rafael Fiziev, or a rematch with Mateusz Gamrot this go-around with no injuries, knock on wood? A potential fight in the future against Paddy Pimblett, or even taking on the loser of this upcoming weekend's title fight like Charles Oliveira or Ilia Topuria? There are still a lot of very high-level, fun, exciting matchups to be had for Fiziev at 155, let alone what all he could do down at 145 as well. So what did you all make of this bounce back win for Rafael Fiziev? What do you foresee in his future? What is his ceiling at 155 pounds? And do you like some of those potential matchups against a Paddy Pimblett, a run-it-back opportunity with Mateusz Gamrot, a guaranteed banger against Dan Hooker, or fighting the loser of this weekend's title fight between Topuria and Oliveira? Or do you have more interest in seeing him move down to 145 pounds still, even after this victory, where it's safe to assume he would immediately be launched in against a top 10 opponent, if I had to guess, someone like a Brian Ortega, a Lerone Murphy, an Arnold Allen, a Yair Rodriguez, a Diego Lopez? I mean, there's so many opportunities for Rafael Fiziev in 2 different weight classes, and he's 32 years old, right in his prime. I am very excited to see what the UFC decide to do next with Fiziev. And I will just say quickly for Ignacio Bahamondes, he put on a great performance here against Fiziev. He stood toe-to-toe for 15 minutes and had some fun moments in his own right, and he's still just 27 years old. He hasn't even entered his prime yet, and he's already had a very successful run in the UFC since debuting back in 2021. He now holds a 6-3 record. He has technically been in the top 15 before after his win against Jalen Turner, then to just be quickly moved out of the way for Joel Alvarez. And so maybe that's the fight we get to see next. Ignacio versus Joel, the 2 tallest men in the lightweight division. I know Joel said after being pulled from his most recent fight that he was going to move to 170, but if not, you can't tell me you wouldn't love to see that fight next. Curtis Blaydes successfully defended his top 5 spot, but it didn't come without some adversity against the UFC debutant, former PFL alum, and 2-time Dana White Contender Series fighter, and former Eagle FC champion, Habib's champion, Rizvan Kuniev. Curtis would etch out a split decision where he looked very good in round 1 and really fell off in the rounds 2 and 3, but did enough to get the nod on the judges' scorecards, and I'd love to hear if you thought he was the deserving winner in this fight. And say what you would about this performance from Curtis, or even the career that he's had in general, you have to respect him putting his top 5 spot on the line against someone who's never even had a UFC fight before. This was truly a lose-lose situation for Curtis, because look what's happening. In the aftermath, even in a winning result, not many people are talking about him in a positive sense. Nobody's really discussing him in the title picture, being that what happened between John Jones and Tom Aspinall at the post-fight presser. And he didn't put on a great performance. It's kind of just a terrible situation for him, and had he lost, God knows what would have happened to him. He might have even been released from the organization like Jairzinho Rozenstruik was. Curtis Blaydes has essentially fought the entirety of the heavyweight division at this point. He's been along this journey for a very long time. time, and he's beaten some of the best in the world and really only faltered in his biggest moments, like that interim title fight against Tom Aspinall and like the other title eliminator bouts that he has had against someone like a Sergey Pavlovich and like a Derek Lewis, and many years ago like a Francis Ngannou. I mean, yeah, he could maybe run it back with Alexander Volkov. After all, they had their first fight back in June of 2020, so over 5 years ago, but that didn't leave many fans clamoring for a rematch down the line. Shockingly, he's never faced Sergey Spivak, so maybe that's the fight that happens next. Spivak is coming off of a loss to Waldo Cortez Acosta, who in the aftermath is being awarded a top 5 opportunity against Sergey Pavlovich in August, so maybe that's what we'll see next. Curtis Blaydes versus the polar bear Sergey Spivak. Myktybek Orolbai doesn't know what a boring fight is. That word boring isn't even in his vocabulary, I'm convinced. He is now 14-2 with 1 draw. 12 of his 14 wins are by way of finish, and he's still only 27 years old, even though he maybe looks like he's 57. And he's 3-1 in the UFC after his win over the debuting Tofiq Musayev, and he did it in the first round with a nasty Kimura. And his lone loss in the UFC last October against Mateusz Roumbecki was one of the best fights of 2024, where he nearly got his hand raised in a split decision defeat. And outside of that, he's remained perfect, not lost a fight since December of 2020 on the regional scene. He's a very fun addition to the lightweight division, even though this fight was moved to 165 last minute, but it wasn't really rumored that there were any weight issues, so I'm not sure what happened there. So maybe he's going to move up to welterweight. Either or, he's a fun addition to either weight class. And we stay in the lightweight division to finish the UFC Baku discussion with Baku's own Nazim Sadykhov, who is absolutely on fire right now. 11-1-1, 10 of his 11 victories by way of finish, and that includes what he did in Azerbaijan on Saturday with a fight of the year contender and fight of the night winner officially against Nikolas Motta. These two were going rock'em sock'em robots mode for 9 minutes and 17 seconds before Nazim found one of the most beautiful combination knockouts of 2025. He put Nikolas Motta down with a nasty right hook and was awarded the victor via TKO. He's 4-0 in the UFC with that 1 draw coming to Slava Claus back at UFC 295 in November of 2023, and all 4 of his UFC victories are by way of stoppage. They even include wins over Ishmael Bonfim and Terrence McKinney. Not to mention he had a knockout on the Dana White Contender Series show back in 2022, and before that was a Fury Fighting alum, and he trains out of the Serra-Longo gym. This man has a lot of momentum behind him, trains with a lot of high-level fighters. You have to keep your eyes on Nazim, who is 31 years old, right in his prime, and I think in the aftermath of this should be taking on a top 15 lightweight next. So that is it for the UFC Baku recap. Let me know all of your thoughts on this event down in the comments below. It looked like a very beautiful city, and it was cool to see the UFC go to such a random country and host their first event there and have a rocking crowd from start to finish. And it makes me excited for what can come in the future for the UFC continuing to expand their horizons and visit new continents and countries throughout the globe. What are your thoughts on that main event performance from Khalil Rountree, and what do you think is next? And just in general, the title picture of light heavyweight is a little bit murky right now. Clear it up for me down below. If you enjoyed this recap, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Every single week, I recap the most meaningful results from every single card. Heading into each weekend, I break down and discuss the biggest fights from a storyline and what is at stake perspective, alongside some X's and O's talk, and I give my thoughts and opinions on MMA news and fight announcements. You can also join the community on social media at Verbal Spar MMA on X, Instagram, and TikTok, as well as like the Facebook page Verbal Sparring MMA. And you can follow on your favorite audio listening platform, where every Monday and Friday podcast episodes release on Spotify, Apple, and more. Have a great week, and I will see you all in the next video.